Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about PlayStation going third party. Believe it or not, this is a thing. And a lot of people online are not happy about this. But I think a lot of us with cooler heads kind of saw the writing on the wall, and people are just not wanting to just kind of realize that, hey, this is sort of where the video game market is going. A lot of people has criticized Microsoft in the past because Microsoft's new strategy is going more multi-platform, and now we see that PlayStation is doing something very similar. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are finding me for the very first time, please do me a massive favor, hit that like and subscribe button. So over on Twitter, this news has really been breaking over this past weekend about Sony, and I believe their CEO Roki Itoki has announced they're going to be going more third party. And of course, Twitter being what it is, people are losing their mind. And my thoughts on this is I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem when Xbox does it or did it. When Xbox announced that they were going this route, I have not had a problem with that. I thought, like, okay, well, that's fine. If these games are just sitting on your console and they're not bringing in any more revenue, let's split it around. The weirdest thing is, and we're going to get into the console war mentality and the fanboys because there's like a whole meltdown online right now. People are just losing their mind online, and I'm going to give my overall thoughts on why this is a good thing. The video game industry has always been the only industry in media where you had exclusive content on exclusive machines. Now, if you bought music in the past, now everything is digital. But back in the day when we had records, cassettes, and CDs, right, you wouldn't buy like an Eminem or Dr. Dre album and it would only work on a certain CD player. You wouldn't buy a movie like Independence Day or Titanic and it would only work on a certain VCR or DVD player. That's not how it went. You bought a movie, it worked on any DVD player, regardless if it was Panasonic, Sony, Magnavox, did not matter. It played all movies. Same thing with CDs. You buy a Sony CD player, a Philips CD player, it played all music albums. But yet the gaming industry is the only industry to where if you want to play God of War, it only works on PlayStation. If you want to play Halo, it only works on the Xbox. And I think we're getting to a point now where with the prices of stuff that's just not acceptable anymore. The prices of everything is going up. You need to keep these shareholders happy. These games are sitting on your console. They're not making money. What do? Let's port these things to other consoles. And we saw that when Microsoft did it, I thought it was always a brilliant thing. Like, okay, I have no problem. Put it on your console, make them timed exclusive. We see games like Hellblade 2 going over to the PlayStation. Starfield will be going there soon. Indiana Jones went after like 5-6 months. I'm perfectly fine with that. The more people that experience these games, the better for me. And I don't like the idea, especially with these consoles being so expensive, where the Xbox Series X was 500, PS5 base was 500 at launch. You know, not everybody has $1,000 to go get both. I am fortunate. I'm very lucky to be able to do that. Not everybody can. So if you are someone who picked an Xbox because your friends are on Xbox and you don't get to play Spider-Man because you don't have another $500 to buy that console, that's not really good for the gaming space. So I always like the idea of making things multi-platform. I was all for it when Xbox did it. I thought it was a great strategy, and now it looks like PlayStation is doing it. The problem is that the people, the fanboys out there that were criticizing, saying Xbox dead, Xbox dead, Xbox dead, everything that they criticized Xbox for and they used as ammo is now being done by PlayStation, and now they are literally a soldier without a country. They are just standing there going, well, we just spent years criticizing Xbox for this, and now PlayStation is turning around and doing the exact same thing. And now they're realizing that they're grown men console warring over a piece of plastic instead of enjoying the games. Also, I want to point out the reason why I think this is a smart idea is the fact that the average gamer on the PlayStation console, right? Like console warriors, they want to sit there and go, well, PlayStation sold 130 million consoles. But the problem is 80 to 90% of those users aren't buying God of War or Spider-Man or Last of Us or Horizon. A lot of those users, about 80% of that 130 million users, are playing games like Madden and Call of Duty and Fortnite and FIFA, and they buy those games every single year. That's why when you get games like a God of War, games like a Last of Us, those games are only selling anywhere between 10 to 15 million copies. Can you imagine having 130 million consoles in people's homes, but yet you only sell 10 million copies of a game? Like, do the math. That doesn't make sense, right? Like, if you have 130 million consoles and you only sell 10 million copies of God of War Ragnarok, and for disclosure, I don't know how many copies God of War Ragnarok sold. I'm just guessing 10 million. I'm just using that as an example. But let's say 10 million copies of God of War Ragnarok, but there's 130 million consoles in people's homes. Then that is roughly 120 million people not buying God of War Ragnarok. And that game costs like $300 million to make. So how do you make up that revenue? Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Going third party. Release it on PC. Release it on Xbox. Release it and build that revenue, because we are living in an era where people aren't buying these games. The people that own a PlayStation own it because it's the marquee name, right? When you go out and buy sneakers, you're buying like Jordans and Nikes. If you're buying a phone, you're buying an iPhone. You're buying the top tier product, the default product. People that is like the big name product. PlayStation is that for gaming. When you talk about like, hey, do you game? Yeah, I got a PlayStation. It's just it's the marquee name. But a lot of those players, and I know this because I lived with someone for 3 years that does this, they have a PlayStation 5 and all they play is Call of Duty, MLB The Show, Madden, and those type of games. Fortnite. They're not playing the God of Wars and the AAA games that are exclusive to PlayStation. So that is a huge pie of revenue that PlayStation is not getting. So how do you make back that revenue? How do you make back that money and make the shareholders happy? Well, I'll tell you how. You do what Xbox did and you go multi-platform, because guess what? There are people on Xbox that will buy Spider-Man, that will buy God of War and all these. Same thing with Xbox. You put Gears of War on PlayStation, it's going to sell. That's just the nature of the business. And now these console warriors, these toxic fanboys, they don't know how to act, because everything they bashed Xbox for years is now being proven right. And now they don't know what to do. They keep saying, support the developers and all this stuff. It was never about that. Game prices are too much. The AAA market is going to buckle very, very soon. And these companies need to try to make more revenue. How to do that? Put it on PC. Put it on Xbox. Put it on the Switch. Because the average user is just playing Madden. And if you don't believe me, you go to any pawn shop and look at their video game section. It is like hundreds of Maddens and Call of Duties, because that's the game the casual users play. And then when they're done, they get rid of it. That's what they do. They're not buying God of War. There's a reason why that out of 130 million consoles, you're only selling 10 million. PlayStation is a casual machine for casual gamers. That's not to say that hardcore gamers don't play PlayStation. I'm just saying that there's more casual users on the PlayStation than there is on other consoles. And that's the reason why you're not seeing Spider-Man, Horizon, God of War selling as much as the Nintendo Switch. People that buy the Nintendo Switch, they're buying it for Mario. They're buying it for Zelda. They're not buying a Nintendo Switch to play FIFA or Madden or Call of Duty. They buy the Nintendo Switch for Mario Kart. That's why Mario Kart sold like 55 million copies, because people buy the Switch for Switch exclusives and Switch IPs. They're not doing that with PlayStation. PlayStation is a casual console for casual gamers that just want to get with their friends and play the latest Madden and the latest NBA 2K. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, it's a business and you have to make money. And what Roki Itoki is doing by going third party like Xbox is doing, there's nothing wrong with that. Make more games available to more players, and guess what? You'll make more money. That's all I think, guys. That's my opinion. That's the way I look at it. But please do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe. And until next time, as always, I am Robert Storms, and thank you so much for watching.